Welcome to the first edition of CEO Corner for the 2013 legislative session. I'm Otis Rawl, President and CEO of the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce, and we're happy to have with us today Mike Brenan, President of BB&T South Carolina. But more than that, he also happens to be the Chairman of the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce for this year. Mike, welcome to the show.
Otis, it's good to be on your show.
Well, it's been an exciting first 2 or 3 months for the Chamber as we kind of developed our competitive agenda for the upcoming legislative session. We went around the state, had 10 grassroots meetings, also held forums with our CEOs, and have developed what we believe is a comprehensive agenda to create jobs in South Carolina. One of the things that we heard loud and clear from the business community is workforce education and skills for workers is important. I know you sit on the South Carolina Board of Education, and education is dear to your heart. Can you talk a little bit to us about what do you see happening in education, or what should happen in education to transform education where we will be able to have the skilled workers that we need to fill the jobs that we hopefully will be able to
Absolutely,
create.
Otis. And again, thank you for having me. And first, let me say that it's just a real privilege to serve as the chairman of this organization, because without a doubt, this is the leading advocate for business and industry in this state, particularly in the General Assembly, and creating the best possible business climate that we can for our business and industry in South Carolina. So that's a real honor and privilege, so thank you. Before we talk about workforce development or infrastructure or comprehensive tax reform, at the annual meeting, one of the things that I shared with folks, particularly after the governor spoke, was that we really needed to begin to change the narrative and the conversation that we were having in the state, and begin to think more about the things that we can work on together to improve the economic climate, to improve prosperity in our state, and try to put aside the things that we don't necessarily agree on. And I think that feeds into our competitiveness agenda, which really I think speaks to things that we all can work on together. And the first one you mentioned was workforce development and really the transformation of public education in South Carolina. Jim Reynolds, our past chairman, Pam Lackey, our chairman-elect, all of us are working on an initiative with New Carolina to really begin to discover how we can find innovation in our public schools, how we can replicate it, how we can create an environment where more innovation occurs in our public education system, because the old system is based on an old industrial and agricultural model, and we really need to begin to think, how do we individualize and personalize that for our students in South Carolina? Because what we're learning is that they all learn differently. And we need to provide an environment that really produces students who are career ready, college ready, or both, and can really meet the skills needed by business and industry in the next decade. And the Chamber's been actively involved in those kinds of issues for years, and we're going to continue to do that.
Well, I always like your little example of when you start talking about how children and young adults, and even adults now, are learning. You know, 30 years ago, the tool was a pencil. Now it's either an iPad or an iPhone, and that's how educations could be delivered in this country and really around globally now. So, you know, we got to be ready to be able to handle those types of issues and be able to provide those types of tools to our students now. Well, the other thing that we heard loud and clear also was a need for infrastructure improvement in this state. Our General Assembly was gracious enough last year to give us $300 million in additional dollars to expand the port. Jim Newsom is doing a wonderful job down there making sure that the expansion of the port is on time. The Army Corps of Engineers is helping, our General Assembly is helping. And it looks like what we've done is sped up the time frame from like 2022 to 2017 for the port to open. And that's going to force us to address some capacity needs around that. So infrastructure, talk about what you think we need to do and kind of what we've heard from our folks about infrastructure.
Well, I think the issue of infrastructure, again, is one of those things that we all can agree on. You know, the governor's got some money in the budget that she proposed. I'm hearing from leadership in the General Assembly that they really want to address this issue. Both Republicans and Democrats recognize that this is a key investment of government, because business and industry, we can't build roads, we can't build bridges. This is really a key role for government. And it's been a long time since we've had a dedicated funding source for improving and expanding our infrastructure. If you think about the port, Otis, and the traffic on the port going to increase dramatically, particularly with the expansion of Panama and the deepening of the port, it's just going to create that much more traffic. But how people get to that is through I-26, I-85, I-95, and if we don't continue to improve how we get to the port, it's going to get difficult for us.
Well, that's just one aspect of it. The other is the safety issues. We've got a million more citizens in South Carolina than what we had since we had the last dedicated increase in funding in our roads and all. And from an economic development standpoint, our neighboring states are putting dollars in infrastructure and improving their transportation system. So we're falling a little bit behind. So the crisis is here now. So we've got to move forward pretty quickly on that. So thank you for joining us for CEO Corner. Please join us next week for where we'll have another guest that will be talking about what's going on in the General Assembly for this upcoming year.